Well, welcome to our webinar today, which will focus on the marine and Antarctic science. My name is Joshua Bomford and I'm a student recruitment officer at the University of Tasmania, and I'm your host today. Before I introduce you to our presenter, may I please remind you of some housekeeping. If you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions into the chat box and we'll address them after the presentation. This session is also going to be recorded and will be available for later viewing. Once again, thank you for your time and attending this webinar. Today, we've been lucky enough to be joined by Professor Mary-Ann Lee from the Institute of Marine and Antarctic Science. Over to you, Mary-Ann.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. I'll just quickly share my screen. So before I get going, my name's Mary-Ann. I'm the coordinator of the Master in Marine and Antarctic Science at IMAS at the university, which is a postgraduate course that hopefully many of you might be interested in. And I look forward to sharing some of the relevant bits of information with you now. Can you see that?
Yep, that's perfect.
Great. Okay, so welcome, Yapulingina. As I mentioned, this talk today will be about the Master of Marine and Antarctic Science. I'm just having some problems. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so why study marine and Antarctic science with us at the University of Tasmania? So here in this photo, you can see a picture of the Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies where I work, which is the grey building towards the bottom left of the image. And you can see Mount Wellington, or Kunani in the background, our old Antarctic research vessel, the Aurora, the orange ship that you can see. So Hobart is an Antarctic gateway. And this master's degree in particular combines marine science with a focus on Southern Ocean and Antarctica, as well as governance and policy, marine biology that you'll hear about in a moment. So it's ranked 9th in the world for oceanography. And as a core aspect of some of our some areas within the masters, we have strong connections with industry. So in the fisheries and aquaculture areas, we have very strong connections with marine industries here in Tasmania and overseas. So IMAS is a world-leading research institute in marine and Antarctic science. This master's is designed to prepare you for a meaningful scientific career, either in industry or as a researcher, in some cases in government. We have strong relationships with international experts. We have many researchers at IMAS across a broad array of disciplines with strong links in Tasmania, Australia, and the world. We offer flexible study options, particularly with the pandemic. And then there is one important thing to note, as a prerequisite for the masters, we do require a bachelor level of science, which has a degree of life science. So the course structure, it's a 2-year course, and currently there is 1 year of coursework, which comprises 8 units, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. And within those 8 units, there are 2 core units, which are research methods in marine and Antarctic science, which occurs in the first semester, and a literature review unit, which occurs in the second semester on a topic of your choosing. So these 2 units provide a foundation to the overall structure of the degree. And then there are electives within research streams that you also would undertake in that first year. And our key streams within the Master of Marine and Antarctic Science are marine biology, fisheries management and sustainable aquaculture, as well as governance and policy, which isn't listed here. So depending on your results, the second year would either comprise, well, it usually comprises a research year of one year duration. And during the course of that first year, if you don't have strong ideas about a particular area you're interested in, and you become aware of this during the coursework, then you have the opportunity to engage with researchers at IMAS to find a project that suits you in the second year. So here are those specialist streams again. They're quite broad. You can see that fisheries management, sustainable aquaculture are geared towards marine industries and a future in providing food for the world from the ocean and the expanding blue economy. Seafood science is run in some years. Marine biology is obviously a very broad discipline area, and this includes zoological projects, botany, all kinds of aspects of marine biology, from the intertidal down to the deep ocean, from Tasmania down to Antarctica. And then we also have a strong governance and policy unit at IMAS. So this is looking at legislation and some of the governance structures that manage our oceans. So why IMAS? IMAS is internationally recognised. It's a centre of excellence, as I mentioned earlier. It's strategically located at a gateway to Antarctica, and with a very diverse marine biodiversity, a mixing of cold and warm currents around Tasmania. So there are plenty of research opportunities in Tasmania as well. And our research is centred in our 3 core areas at IMAS, which are fisheries and aquaculture, ecology and biodiversity, and oceans and cryosphere. We also have a new research hub on rock lobster aquaculture based at our Taroona campus at IMAS. And we have many cross-cutting projects which deal with marine conservation. So for example, the world's rarest fish, the red handfish, is based here, is found here in the Derwent estuary, just across the waterway from IMAS. And animals, very endangered animals, have been raised from eggs and then released back into the wild to avoid extinction. And then there are many Antarctic and Southern Ocean science projects as well. So Tasmania is rich in marine potential, and there is a strong focus on restoration ecology here in Tasmania and in Australia and the world more broadly. So some of our research academics who work in this area include Dr. Scott Link. So he's focusing on how and why reef ecosystems collapse, and this human stresses, including overfishing, invasive species, and urbanization, as well as climate change and how they affect reef ecosystems. Professor Greta Prekel is an expert in climate change, ecology, and citizen science, and is working hard to raise awareness around climate change and what it means for our oceans and the people who depend on our oceans. Dr. Beth Strain, she focuses on interactions between fish farming and surrounding habitats, which is relevant to many other parts of the world where there are very strong aquaculture industries. So this might be of interest to you, as well as solutions for climate change, overfishing, and habitat loss. And finally, another research example is Dr. Kane Layton, who is working on the restoration of Tasmania's giant kelp forests. And this is a very active area of research that is emerging. So in terms of career opportunities, there are many, many opportunities available in our oceans, and it is a growth area. As I mentioned before, the blue economy, so that comprises different innovations and industries that are evolving in our oceans, which could include aquaculture or marine renewables, oil and gas. There are many different kinds, tourism, of industries in our oceans. So in an Australian context, they represent a value of around $40 billion, and which obviously offers many employment opportunities to our graduates. And then in terms of commercial fishing and aquaculture, 7,000 people are employed in Australia, and this is growing constantly. And Tasmania is the country's largest commercial operator in this area. So with all that in mind, studying here and undertaking the Masters in Marine and Antarctic Science allows you to pursue exciting careers in marine science and climate research, fisheries management, aquaculture, non-governmental organizations, governmental organizations, environmental governance, and all levels of government from local through to global. Probably as well as many other career options we haven't thought of. So in terms of your outlook as a graduate, just discuss some of the many careers that could be on offer. Environmental scientists are projected in terms of opportunities to grow by 7.7% by 2025. Professional scientific and technical services are also projected to grow by 15% over the next few years, as well as natural and physical science professional jobs. So I think from all of this, you can see that this is an area of continued interest and opportunity. So here we have a few examples of comments from some of our recent graduates in the Masters. So I'll read the top one out to you quickly. So I got into a few universities, but with Hobart having a really big international reputation, more marine scientists than any other city, and being a gateway city to Antarctica, this was the perfect place to do it in Australia. There is no other university in the country where you can actively study an Antarctic science course. And off the back of that comment, I forgot to say that another reason that Hobart is such a fantastic place for studying marine and Antarctic science is because we also have the Antarctic Division, which is our national research and logistics organisation for Antarctic science based here in Hobart, as well as our federal marine and atmospheric labs at the CSIRO, which are located next door to IMAS, as well as state government research institutions. So there are lots of opportunities for collaborations with world-leading scientists in Hobart as well. So in terms of the next steps, to find out more, you can chat with our team at UTAS. They'll help you understand the application process and how to accept your offer and enroll to study. If you have any specific questions about the course, I can also help with those. So thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions in the chat that you might have now, and otherwise we look forward to hearing from you in the future if you're interested in taking our master's degree.
Thank you, Marianne. We are just awaiting a few questions to come through the chat box there at the moment. One question I have for graduates, what is the likelihood, obviously probably going into some of the research degrees and stuff as well, that students might make it to Antarctica?
Well, it depends on the research area that they're interested in. You know, it's very hard for us to predict that, especially with the pandemic. I should say that we have just had a new Antarctic research vessel arrive in Hobart only last week. So that should present some new research opportunities going forward. And, you know, I think if you are really keen on working in Antarctic science and having opportunities during the course, then it's good to start making those connections early on, even potentially before you come to study with us. Because it's a one-year research program, you can imagine that it's quite logistically challenging to incorporate a summer in the Antarctic as part of that. But certainly many master's students have been south to Antarctica for their studies over the years.
Perfect. The first question we have from Naomi is, thanks, Marianne, that was great. What type of fieldwork opportunities are on offer and are they impacted by COVID?
Well, everything's impacted by COVID, isn't it? But a little less so here in Tasmania currently. So we're still undertaking all of our usual research activities here within Tasmania. So that can include nearshore coastal boating work, diving. We have a world-class diving unit, which you could potentially undertake while here, scientific diving course. My research area is studying birds and mammals here in Tasmania in the Southern Ocean. So we're often going off to islands to study penguins and shearwaters and seals. So there are, and then in terms of industry, plenty of opportunity to engage with industry at all times. So lots of opportunities. Thanks for your question.
Oh, that's great. And it highlights the level of employability in the field as well. Just while we're waiting for any other questions to come through, I was just going to ask, do you have any student success stories that you've had come through, like those that have graduated and are now working within Tasmania that you might want to speak about?
Yeah, actually, I met a couple yesterday. So I'm currently attending the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources meetings, which are international meetings around management of the Southern Ocean and its fisheries resources and biodiversity. And so yesterday I saw two of our graduates from the Masters at the meetings. One is now the Antarctica representative for WWF.
Wow.
And another one is actually working at the Camala Secretariat in the fishing area. So that's an example of how students have found their way through to a governance and policy and conservation stream. We also have many graduates working in the marine industries in Hobart, others who go on to do PhDs at IMAS, others still who are working in government or who have started their own companies. We have quite a few entrepreneurial students who, are working in restoration ecology and doing fantastic things.
Oh, that's great. It's a great story. One question we have, it says the website says 24 people quota for the birds and mammals of the Southern Ocean unit. Is there any specific requirement needed to enroll into this program or into that unit?
Well, it's a good question for me because I'm the unit coordinator. So you do need to have some ecology. We like the students to have some zoology/ecology experience in their undergrad degree. The unit hasn't been limited to 24 students last year because we were unable to offer it in its normal form because of COVID. So we will see how the unit settles next year in terms of what we can offer into the future. But if you are interested in that unit, then get in touch with me as soon as possible when you're enrolling, and we can take it from there.
Perfect. The next question was from Maria, who thanked you for the presentation, but wanted to know if there's any scholarships available for the master. I can jump in just quickly there. We do have the Tasmania International Scholarship for our international students, which is a 25% reduction throughout the degree. For a list of our other scholarships, you can find them on our website, and I'm happy to contact you after this event as well. And we do have one from Marianne. How does a student under a supervisor for the second year research project?
How do they find a supervisor, or what does it entail?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay. So our second year of the Masters is like an honours degree. And I know that if you're overseas, you might not have an honours degree in your university system. But basically, it just represents a one-year intensive research experience. So often students are coming in contact with potential supervisors through their coursework, through seminars, through lots of different activities that occur at IMAS, where the students are exposed to the different kinds of research that are happening here. We also have a page that advertises projects that are on offer. So there is a page on our website that has honours and masters projects, which are free for students to take up. So that can be a good conversation starter and lead in with a potential supervisor. So I'm not sure if I specifically answered your question, but please feel free to add to it in the chat.
We will just welcome any other questions that anyone might have at this stage. Just while we wait for any last questions, looking at the Master of Marine and Antarctic Science, what would it be like one takeaway point that you'd want any students and any potential education agents that we have joining us today?
I just saw that there was another question actually in my chat, which is, if you've changed your mind on the specialisation or stream that you've applied for, how hard is it to be accepted to another specialisation if we decline our first offer of preferences? Well, it shouldn't be especially hard if you have the correct prerequisites for the second specialisation. I think sometimes students will apply for a couple of specialisations at a time if they're interested in a couple, and then that way we can assess you for both streams simultaneously, and then it's up to you which offer you take up. So there's you can definitely get in touch with us or the uni more broadly to talk about that.
And I did just miss one part of a previous question, was how many intakes available for the master program?
We usually have somewhere between 30 to 35 students a year.
Yep. And like as of intake period, so that would be February and July?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We tend to have a larger number of students starting in February, usually, yep, and then a smaller group in July.
Perfect. I am just going through to see if there are any more questions. There's nothing in the chat at this point. So was there anything final that you wanted to add, Marianne, for the session today?
Well, nothing except to say that is a really dynamic group of students, diverse, very interesting. We have a lot of different nationalities, lots of different interests, which I think makes for a really good student experience. Definitely COVID threw up some challenges last year, and it's nice to see people interacting again together and getting that special kind of learning experience that comes from experiencing field work and learning opportunities together. And as I said earlier, if you have any specific queries, then don't hesitate to get in touch. I'm happy to answer them.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for the presentation today and your time going over the questions that we have as well. And thank you everyone else for joining us. Again, if you do have any questions later on, please feel free to reach out and contact us, and anything that's a bit more course specific, we can definitely get in contact with Marianne for that. Yep, and Tony, just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. So thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.